In regards to the time and the priority, you and I were in a few conversations this week where the contact admitted, well, hey, I'm just wrapping up this project over here, which took me a year and a half. And now I'm starting to focus on these other things. Oh, and by the way, I just had one of my main architects leave. It was actually great that he was pretty transparent, because not that there was any silver bullets that we could like really provide him. It was more like, okay, well, have you thought of this? Have you thought of that?
I find that those kind of conversations that we get ourselves into lead me to think about, as we're juggling all these different priorities, we've got big projects, we've got little things, we've got strategic, we've got tactical things. When do we get to explore and dream and help create a vision for, it sounds a little bit cliche, but a vision for what's next? Like, what should I be thinking about next? Asking ourselves tough questions. Am I just doing the same thing with a different nameplate, or am I really changing the game? Am I really thinking about, still need to do my due diligence to look at other types of solutions and just say, I looked at it, I chased all the numbers, I chased the process down, I saw what it would do, but it wasn't the right fit. But I know that because I've actually done the work and I understand how that happens. Like, I feel like that is kind of like when we're working with a client to help them kind of explore and go, what else could I do? How else could I do that? Like, it's like a bit of magic. And it's like having this great resource in your pocket to help go, there's literally like 5 ways to do this. I can only really tackle maybe one based on what I know. Help me understand, what are the other 4 ways, and what could it do for us? How could it transform us in a way that I never could have imagined?
There's going to be some instances where people will want to dive into that, but then you're going to have the opposite end of the spectrum where it's like, I don't have time to look at the other 4 options. I've got to go like right now. People are also inheriting somebody else's vision. We're seeing this massive, shift of like, hey, I'm going over here, and hey, more power to everyone that's, looking to provide for their family. But we have to keep that top of mind too, because you are inheriting somebody else's vision. And then when that new team comes in, it's like, okay, cool, this is what we're doing. How do you politely say, well, this is how we did it over here, and it actually really worked based on what you guys are looking to do here? A whole bunch of set of challenges. And I'm sure there's some people watching this that are like, yeah, been there.
It makes me think of something that you and I follow Simon Sinek, and we think a lot of what he talks about. And I saw something recently that he's making pretty bold statements about the end of stable work, meaning it's very unlikely that someone is going to stay at an organization for 5, 7, 10, 15 years. I think you and I are going to stay here because we get this variety. We get this constant infusion of what's new and what's changing and what's next. And a lot of people are doing that with their own careers. And what it does for businesses is exactly what you're describing. As someone's there for 3 years, they do a project or they get something implemented, and then there's another opportunity that they go off and do.
Yeah, I'd be curious. So for any of you watching this video, I think if you have something really powerful that you can share that speaks to how your team or your organization puts like maybe a formal process around prioritization. And it doesn't necessarily have to be security. It can be any type of project. But yeah, if you've got something that's really powerful, I would say definitely share that, because look, again, Ryan and I were in 3 separate conversations this week where it wasn't necessarily all about that, but you could start to pick and pull some of these items that really came to the whole time and priority type of concept.
What's the saying out there that the only thing that you can, I always mess it up. We'll have to have Drew really get into it, but it's just so true. And how do you get day-to-day processes? How do you keep up on the day-to-day, plan for what's next, start to move in the next direction? God forbid you have some sort of curveball out of left field that you go, oh, now here's 2 months of project life that got put on hold, and probably now we're definitely in another direction.
Yeah, and not to say that this would happen every time, but you could take your priorities, crumple it up, and like throw it out the window when something like that happens. Again, not every time, but there's been some circumstances that we've heard about where it's like, yep, all hands on deck. Whatever we were thinking about doing, we're gonna wait.